Judging people by their appearance is one of the most common yet damaging habits in everyday life, often happening so quickly that we do not even realize we are doing it. The way someone dresses, the condition of their shoes, their skin color, or even their posture can trigger assumptions that feel natural but are often far from the truth. In many environments, especially in workplaces or public spaces, these snap judgments can shape how people are treated, who gets respect, and who is dismissed without a second thought. A person who looks tired or poorly dressed might be seen as unimportant, while someone in a sharp suit might automatically be treated with respect, regardless of their actual character or intentions. This kind of thinking creates a false hierarchy where appearance is confused with value, and it can lead to unfair treatment that deeply affects individuals on both emotional and professional levels. When someone is judged negatively based on how they look, they may be ignored, spoken to harshly, or denied opportunities they deserve. Over time, this repeated behavior reinforces inequality and creates environments where certain people feel unwelcome or undervalued. It also blinds those making the judgments, preventing them from seeing the real qualities that matter, such as integrity, intelligence, kindness, and capability. In many cases, the people who are overlooked or underestimated are the very ones who hold the most insight, resilience, or authority. The danger becomes even greater when these assumptions are tied to race, social status, or background, as they can reinforce harmful stereotypes and deepen divisions within a community or organization. What makes this issue more complex is that judging by appearance is often socially reinforced, with media, culture, and past experiences shaping our perceptions of what success, power, or worth should look like. People are taught, directly or indirectly, to associate certain appearances with certain roles, which makes it harder to break free from these patterns. However, the reality is that appearance is one of the least reliable indicators of a person's true identity or potential. Someone who appears ordinary or even struggling on the outside may have achieved great success, possess deep knowledge, or hold significant influence. On the other hand, someone who looks polished and confident may lack the character or competence that their appearance suggests. Recognizing this gap between perception and reality is the first step toward more thoughtful and fair interactions. It requires a conscious effort to pause before forming conclusions, to treat people with equal respect regardless of how they look, and to remain open to the possibility that there is much more beneath the surface. In environments like workplaces, this mindset is especially important because it shapes culture, teamwork, and leadership. When people feel that they are judged fairly based on their actions and contributions rather than their appearance, they are more likely to feel valued and perform at their best. On the other hand, when appearance-based judgment dominates, it creates tension, resentment, and a lack of trust. Ultimately, the habit of judging by appearance not only harms those who are unfairly judged, but also limits the growth and understanding of those who do the judging, keeping them from seeing the full picture and making informed, compassionate decisions. True leadership is not defined by titles, authority, or the ability to give orders, but by how a person chooses to act when there is no pressure to perform and no audience to impress. It is easy for someone in a position of power to appear fair, respectful, and professional when they know they are being observed or evaluated. But the real test of character happens in ordinary moments when no recognition is expected. These are the moments that reveal whether a leader genuinely values people or simply performs kindness as part of their role. When no one important is watching, a leader's decisions become more honest, more reflective of their true beliefs, and more telling of their integrity. In a workplace setting, this might show in how a manager speaks to employees who hold lower positions, how they respond to mistakes, or how they handle conflict behind closed doors. A leader who maintains respect, patience, and fairness in these unseen moments builds trust that goes far beyond surface-level professionalism. Employees notice consistency, and they can sense when respect is genuine rather than conditional. On the other hand, a leader who changes their behavior depending on who is present creates an environment of uncertainty, where people feel valued one moment and dismissed the next. This inconsistency weakens morale and makes it difficult for teams to feel secure or motivated. True leadership also involves accountability, especially when no one is there to demand it. A strong leader does not need external pressure to do the right thing, because their values guide their actions even in private situations. They take responsibility for their choices, admit mistakes when they happen, and make decisions that reflect fairness rather than convenience. This kind of behavior sets a standard that influences the entire organization, encouraging others to act with the same level of honesty and responsibility. Another important aspect is how leaders use their power when they believe it will not be questioned. Power can easily be misused when there are no immediate consequences, leading to favoritism, unfair treatment, or even humiliation of those who are more vulnerable. A true leader resists this temptation and instead uses their position to protect, support, and uplift others, especially in situations where those individuals cannot defend themselves. This builds a culture of safety and respect, where employees feel confident that they will be treated fairly regardless of circumstances. Leadership in unseen moments also reflects emotional intelligence, as it requires awareness of how actions and words affect others, even when there is no external accountability. A thoughtful leader understands that every interaction contributes to a larger environment, shaping how people feel and perform over time. They recognize that respect is not something to be displayed only in formal settings, but something that must be consistently practiced in every situation. Over time, this consistency becomes a defining trait, one that earns genuine respect rather than forced compliance. It creates a ripple effect, influencing how others treat each other and establishing a standard that does not depend on supervision or control. In contrast, when leaders fail to uphold these values in private, it often leads to hidden issues that eventually surface, damaging both relationships and reputation. People may remain silent for a while, but patterns of behavior are difficult to hide forever, and when they are exposed, the consequences can be far more severe than if the issues had been addressed early on. This is why true leadership is less about visible performance and more about internal character, the kind that remains steady regardless of the situation or the presence of others. Abuse of power occurs when authority is used not to guide, support, or protect, but to control, intimidate, or diminish others, and it can quietly erode both individuals and the entire structure of an organization. In many workplaces, power is given to leaders with the expectation that they will create a fair and productive environment. Yet when that power is misused, it creates fear instead of trust and silence instead of communication. A manager who raises their voice, humiliates employees publicly, or singles out individuals for unfair criticism may believe they are enforcing discipline, but in reality, they are weakening the very system they are meant to strengthen. Employees who experience this kind of treatment often feel anxious, undervalued, and hesitant to speak up, which directly affects their performance and well-being. Over time, this fear-based environment leads to reduced creativity, lack of initiative, and a growing sense of disengagement, as people focus more on avoiding mistakes than contributing meaningfully. Abuse of power also creates imbalance, where decisions are driven by personal bias rather than fairness, and where certain individuals may be favored while others are consistently overlooked or mistreated. This kind of environment damages teamwork, as employees begin to compete for approval rather than collaborate, and trust between colleagues begins to break down. When people do not feel safe or respected, they are less likely to share ideas, report problems, or support one another, which weakens the organization from within. Another serious consequence is the normalization of toxic behavior, where repeated misuse of authority becomes accepted as part of the workplace culture. New employees may quickly learn that disrespect is tolerated, and over time, they may either adopt the same behavior or withdraw completely, both of which contribute to a negative cycle that is difficult to break. This not only harms individuals on an emotional level, but can also lead to high turnover rates, as talented and capable people choose to leave rather than remain in an environment where they feel mistreated. From an organizational perspective, this loss of skilled employees can be costly, both financially and in terms of long-term growth. Abuse of power also affects the reputation of a business, as word of unfair treatment can spread beyond the workplace, influencing how customers, clients, and potential employees perceive the organization. In today's connected world, even a single incident can quickly become widely known, damaging trust and credibility. On a deeper level, the misuse of authority reflects a lack of emotional control and ethical awareness, as leaders who engage in such behavior often fail to recognize the impact of their actions. Instead of building respect through fairness and consistency, they rely on fear and control, which may produce short-term compliance, but ultimately leads to long-term damage. True authority is not about dominance, but about responsibility, and when that responsibility is ignored, the consequences extend far beyond individual interactions. Employees who are repeatedly subjected to disrespect may carry that stress into other areas of their lives, affecting their confidence, mental health, and overall sense of worth. This makes abuse of power not just a professional issue but a human one, with effects that reach beyond the workplace. Recognizing and addressing this behavior is essential for creating a healthier and more productive environment, where people are motivated by respect rather than fear, and where authority is used as a tool for growth rather than control. Workplace respect and dignity are not optional qualities that can be offered based on mood, performance, or position, but essential standards that shape how individuals experience their work and how organizations function as a whole. Every employee, regardless of their role, background, or level of authority, deserves to be treated with basic human respect, which includes being spoken to politely, listened to seriously, and valued for their contribution. When these standards are consistently upheld, they create an environment where people feel safe, motivated, and willing to engage fully in their work. On the other hand, when respect is treated as something that must be earned or can be withdrawn at any moment, it creates uncertainty and tension, making it difficult for individuals to perform with confidence. Dignity in the workplace goes beyond simple politeness. It involves recognizing the inherent worth of each person and ensuring that no one is made to feel inferior, embarrassed, or excluded. This becomes especially important in situations where there is a clear difference in power, such as between managers and employees, where the way authority is used can either reinforce respect or undermine it completely. A respectful workplace is not defined by the absence of conflict, but by how that conflict is handled, whether disagreements are addressed constructively or used as an opportunity to belittle others. When people are treated with dignity, they are more likely to communicate openly, admit mistakes, and work collaboratively toward solutions. This openness leads to stronger teamwork and better overall performance, as individuals feel that their voice matters and their presence is valued. In contrast, environments where disrespect is common often lead to silence, where employees choose not to speak up out of fear of being criticized or ignored. This silence can allow small problems to grow into larger issues, affecting productivity and creating unnecessary challenges for the organization. Respect also plays a crucial role in shaping workplace culture, influencing how employees interact with one another on a daily basis. When leaders model respectful behavior, it sets a clear expectation that others are likely to follow, creating a culture where kindness, fairness, and professionalism become the norm rather than the exception. However, if leaders tolerate or engage in disrespectful actions, it sends a message that such behavior is acceptable, leading to a breakdown in standards that can be difficult to repair. Another important aspect is that respect must be consistent, not selective, meaning it should not depend on someone's job title, personal relationship, or external appearance. Treating some individuals with kindness while dismissing others creates division and resentment, weakening the sense of unity within a team. Dignity also involves recognizing and addressing issues such as discrimination or bias, which can undermine fairness and create unequal experiences for different groups of people. Ensuring that everyone is treated equally requires awareness, effort, and a willingness to challenge harmful behaviors when they arise. In practical terms, Maintaining respect and dignity can be reflected in everyday actions, such as acknowledging someone's effort, giving constructive feedback instead of harsh criticism, and addressing concerns privately rather than in a way that causes embarrassment. These small actions may seem minor, but over time, they shape how people feel about their workplace and their role within it. When individuals feel respected, they are more likely to take pride in their work, support their colleagues, and remain committed to the organization. This not only benefits employees but also strengthens the organization as a whole, creating a more positive, productive, and sustainable environment. Hidden truths often remain unnoticed in everyday routines, quietly existing beneath the surface of what appears normal, only revealing themselves when circumstances shift or when someone takes the time to look more closely. In many situations, people rely on assumptions and visible outcomes rather than questioning what is really happening behind the scenes, which allows deeper issues to go undetected for long periods. A workplace may seem efficient and well-managed from the outside, with tasks being completed and systems appearing to function smoothly. Yet beneath that surface there may be unresolved tensions, unfair practices, or patterns of behavior that contradict the image being presented. These hidden truths do not always reveal themselves in obvious ways, and they often require a moment of disruption or an unexpected perspective to come to light. Sometimes it takes a new presence, a different set of eyes, or a situation that breaks the routine for people to notice what has been overlooked. This is because familiarity can create a sense of comfort that discourages deeper observation, causing individuals to accept things as they are rather than question whether they should be different. When people become accustomed to a certain environment, they may stop recognizing behaviors that would otherwise stand out as inappropriate or unfair, allowing those behaviors to continue without challenge. Hidden truths can also be protected by silence, as individuals who are aware of them may feel unable or unwilling to speak up due to fear of consequences or lack of support. This silence creates a barrier that keeps important information from reaching those who have the power to address it, allowing problems to grow and become more deeply rooted over time. In some cases, those in positions of authority may remain unaware of these underlying issues because they only see what is presented to them, often filtered through layers of communication that hide uncomfortable realities. This creates a gap between perception and reality, where decisions are made based on incomplete or inaccurate information. When hidden truths eventually come to light, they often reveal patterns that have been developing for a long time, showing that the issue is not isolated but part of a larger problem. This can be surprising or even shocking, especially if the environment was believed to be fair and well-functioning. However, these moments of discovery are also opportunities for growth and change, as they bring attention to areas that require improvement and create a chance to address problems that may have otherwise continued unnoticed. The process of uncovering hidden truths requires openness, curiosity, and a willingness to question assumptions, as well as the courage to acknowledge what is found. It also involves creating an environment where people feel safe to share their experiences and concerns without fear of negative consequences, allowing information to flow more freely and accurately. Transparency plays a key role in this process, as it encourages honesty and reduces the likelihood of important details being concealed. When organizations prioritize transparency, they are better equipped to identify and address issues early, preventing them from escalating into more serious problems. Hidden truths are not always negative, but when they involve unfair treatment or harmful behavior, ignoring them can lead to lasting damage for both individuals and the organization. Recognizing that what is visible is not always complete is an important step toward building a more aware and responsive environment, where decisions are based on a deeper understanding of reality rather than surface-level impressions. Accountability is a fundamental part of any system that aims to be fair, functional, and sustainable, yet it is often misunderstood as punishment rather than responsibility. In reality, accountability is about ownership of actions, decisions, and their consequences, regardless of position or authority. When individuals understand that they are responsible for how they behave and how their actions affect others, It creates a structure where fairness can exist and trust can grow. Without accountability, even the strongest rules or values lose their meaning because there is no mechanism to ensure they are followed. In many environments, especially workplaces, accountability must begin with leadership, as those in positions of power set the tone for what is acceptable and what is not. When leaders hold themselves to the same standards they expect from others, it creates consistency that people can rely on. This consistency builds confidence among employees, as they see that rules are not applied selectively and that no one is above responsibility. On the other hand, when accountability is uneven or avoided, it sends a message that behavior can go unchecked, particularly for those with authority, which can quickly lead to imbalance and resentment. Employees are more likely to feel frustrated and disengaged when they see that some individuals are allowed to act without consequence while others are held strictly to the rules. Accountability also plays a key role in addressing mistakes and conflicts in a constructive way. Rather than focusing solely on blame, it encourages individuals to recognize what went wrong, understand its impact, and take steps to correct it. This approach not only resolves the immediate issue, but also helps prevent similar problems in the future. When people are encouraged to take responsibility rather than hide their mistakes, it creates an environment where learning and improvement are possible. In contrast, when accountability is absent, mistakes are often ignored, repeated, or covered up, leading to larger problems over time. Another important aspect of accountability is transparency, as it ensures that actions and decisions are visible and can be understood by others. Transparency reduces confusion and suspicion, making it easier for people to trust the system they are part of. It also makes it more difficult for unfair behavior to go unnoticed, as there is a clearer record of what is happening and why. In workplaces where transparency is valued, employees are more likely to feel informed and included, which strengthens their connection to the organization. Accountability also reinforces respect, as it shows that everyone's actions matter and that no one's experience is insignificant. When someone is treated unfairly and the issue is acknowledged and addressed, it validates their experience and restores a sense of balance. Ignoring such situations, on the other hand, can make individuals feel invisible or powerless, which can have lasting emotional effects. Over time, consistent accountability contributes to a culture where people are more mindful of their behavior, knowing that their actions have consequences and that those consequences will be addressed fairly. This awareness encourages better decision-making and more thoughtful interactions, reducing the likelihood of harmful behavior. It also creates a sense of shared responsibility, where everyone understands their role in maintaining a positive environment. Accountability is not about control or fear, but about creating a system where fairness is protected and where individuals are encouraged to act with integrity, knowing that their choices matter and that they will be recognized, both when they contribute positively and when they fall short.